What's going on? We back. Decided to do this in video format. Didn't have enough time to do a live video. 2018-2019 Detroit Pistons season preview, and we will do a prediction for the Brooklyn and the Pistons game tonight. Okay, be on the lookout for that. And didn't watch none of the Pistons preseason. I don't put a lot of stock in preseason, man. And I like the Pistons team a lot. And I'm going to just tell you one thing that came to my mind a little bit later on in this video, okay? That came up and I thought a move the Pistons should have made, okay? And most people might say, oh, you crazy, or some people might say, I can see that working, whatever. And you start looking at the Pistons, you look at the core, look at Blake Griffin, you look at Drummond, and you look at Reggie Jackson. I'm not a fan of Reggie Jackson at all. Never been. And he was OKC. I thought he was overrated coming off the bench. When he came to Detroit, I thought he was overrated. Obviously, the Pistons made the right chance moving Brandon Jennings letting Brandon Jennings walk however he left. Can't remember. He wasn't the same player physically after that injury he had, but that season they acquired Reggie Jackson before Brandon Jennings got injured. The Pistons were Brandon Jennings was the point guard for the Pistons. He had the Pistons running well-oiled machine. But obviously, I never thought that the Pistons thought Brandon Jennings was they concrete choice for point guard in the future, and they got Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson, worst thing for him is that he thinks he's better than what he is. He thinks he was better than Russell Westbrook in OKC. He thought so. And I never thought he stepped up and made an impact in OKC that, warranted him coming here and them thinking that he can be the man here. But people are saying the Pistons had this record where Reggie was on the floor and this and that. But Reggie and Blake Griffin are very often injured throughout their career. Dwayne Casey, the new head coach, was the NBA Coach of the Year. Not every day that you get the NBA Coach of the Year coming to the Pistons. Coming off the year, he won the Coach of the Year. Has to figure out a maintenance plan for Blake Griffin and Reggie Jackson. Dre, he can take the pounding. Dre got a man body as well. But that's going to be a key thing with Reggie Jackson. I think this is all-stars with Reggie Jackson. Can Dwayne Casey get him to be a point guard? Can he get him to play right? And his mentality is what holds him back. His physical talent, other than his injury ability, or his injury proneness, if that's a word. Other than that, his physical talent, when he's healthy, nothing holds him back but his mentality. He thinks he's, Westbrook. Like, legitimately, he thinks he's the East Coast Westbrook, and that's not him. And, hopefully he got time to sit there, rehab, and think, and figure out that he needs to just be Reggie Jackson, be the point guard that the Pistons need him to be, which I think that's going out the window, okay? I wouldn't trust Reggie Jackson at all, okay? But I like Blake Griffin being here. I see him around the area at the Michigan games, doing things in the community. I think he's embracing being here in Metro Detroit. And remember, he grew up in Oklahoma City, so that ain't a major city. I think Detroit is more major than Oklahoma City, and I think he could fit in right here. Andre Drummond, a guy that had a piece on ESPN about him getting bullied as a kid. Doesn't take me by surprise. He plays a little bit timid and soft in the paint. But I like Blake Griffin a lot being here. Even before he got traded to the Pistons last year, I liked the way he was handling the rock and with the Lakers, and the way he had evolved his game, and the way he was shooting it, the way he was hitting game winners for the Clippers, and he was helping players elevate their game with the Clippers last year. I was a promoter of Blake Griffin coming to Detroit. Love Blake Griffin here. I think the Pistons should play fast, up and down, and I think that suits their big man and Griffin and Drummond, and also suits a guy like Stanley Johnson as well. Reggie Bullock, Stanley Johnson. Reggie Bullock is good insurance if Stanley Johnson can develop under Dwayne Casey. Excellent insurance. Reggie Bullock is a 3-and-D guy. I think that's what he is at this point in his career. He's a sharpshooter, a guy that's going to knock down shots. We don't need him to knock down shots because one of the Pistons' Achilles heels is they don't have enough shooting. They want to shoot more threes, but they don't have the three-point shooters to do so. We get to the reserves in a minute. We're going to have Langston Galloway play more. You better hope that John Lure can be healthy and hit some open shots. You know what I'm saying? Luke Kennard, we know he going to knock down his threes. You got to hope that a guy like Stanley Johnson can develop a consistent 3-point shot. A guy like Stanley Johnson, if at this point, if he don't have his off the dribble game and his scoring game up to par, I mean, then it's going to be imperative that he has his shooting up to par. And he just can't be out there being a defensive lockdown guy and not giving us nothing on offense. He's too physically talented and has too much potential to be more of a just a defender than not having developed his offense. So it's time for him to develop his offense as well. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I mean, it's time for him to develop. Man, if he don't develop this year, a lot of people are, wanting him moved and tired of him, or whatever the situation may be. But what you got to understand, it's a new era in Detroit. And with the Detroit Pistons, in the past, with all their past coaches, Stan Van Gundy, all the way to Rick Carlisle, Larry Brown, John Kuster, Mo Cheeks, none of these dudes wanted to develop young talent. They like to let young talent sit on the bench and just legitimately just roast. You know what I'm saying? Or just hang in a deep freezer is better. And a lot of the times that kills young talents mental. A lot of times they deteriorate on the bench, don't think they good, and shoot their mentality. Then their morale is not so high. You got to look at that as well. All right. Then you continue to go. We saw Dre, Chalk Blake, Chalk Reggie. Luke Kennard is a guy that I like a lot. Like Luke Kennard a lot. Everybody was talking about Donovan Mitchell, but Luke Kennard didn't really disappoint last year. When they finally put him in and gave him a chance, he's a knockdown shooter, good off the dribble, a guy that can get to the lane and score a bit, and a guy that can shoot. I think he should be the Pistons' insurance policy on Reggie Jackson. They should be trying to develop Luke Kennard as a point guard, or give him some point guard run to see if he can function as a point guard, because I don't trust Reggie Jackson. And I like Ish Smith, I like Ish Smith as a backup point guard. I don't like Ish Smith starting in this league. Too small, and his jumper is too inconsistent. So I think Luke Kennard should be the backup plan at point guard, I believe, okay? I think that should be he should start. I haven't looked at the starting roster. I guess I'll see it tonight. But he definitely should start. I mean, I think it should be Kennard, Jackson, Bullock, or Johnson, however, Dwayne Casey Field, and Dre and Blake Griffin should be starters, man. But talk about the reserves, and then we'll really get into the video the way I want to get in the first 10 minutes. I wanted to kind of just spend talking about the roster. The reserves, you got Zaza Pachulia, just a big body. I mean, I don't see him playing a major role on this team, but just a body. It's not too many, fives in the league no more. Jose Calderon, I see him more as a mentor to the young bucks. We talked about Reggie Bullock already. Like him a lot. Glenn Robinson III. The bench is going to hinge on Glenn Robinson III. What he can bring, being able to play multiple positions in this league, 2, 3, 4. I think he can play some 4, some nice. I think him and John Lure or Henry Ellison is going to have to provide the biggest boost off this bench from a veteran standpoint. You don't expect Jose Calderon to give you a lot of points off the bench. If it's Stanley or Reggie Bullock coming off the bench, you're going to need them to give you a huge boost off the bench with they shooting and they scoring and they defense. And Ish Smith, we know what he's going to give us off the bench. But Glenn Robinson, and then John Lure, between John Lure and Henry Ellison, we need something major out of them coming off the bench this year, at least 10 to 12 points from them apiece somewhere, from one of them, Henry Ellison, John Lure. And we need Glenn Robinson to be a good defender and a good scorer off the bench for the Pistons. You know what I'm saying? Ish Smith is going to run the point guard position. We know he's going to run the offense. And eventually, if they choose not to play the young bucks or not to play Luke Kennard at the point guard spot, then Ish Smith is going to start at some point, because we know our history tells us that Reggie Jackson is going to get injured. Now, going into the 2 rookies they got, and Bruce Brown on the bench, and Kyrie Thomas. All right, I like them a lot. I'm more of the variety of play them now, because you're not really playing for nothing. I understand the Pistons want to win now, and part of me wanting the Pistons to hire Ime Udoka is because I thought he'd be innovative and play young players and bring some new sauce to the Pistons team. But Dwayne Casey, I learned, is hanging his hat on developing players in Toronto, and that's what he's going to hang his hat on today. Why not now? You know what I'm saying? Why not get Bruce Brown and Kyrie Thomas acclimated to the team? It's the gap between Bruce Brown or Kyrie Thomas that large between Ish Smith, Glenn Robinson, or Langston Galloway? No, I don't believe the gap is that big, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? I'm a believer that if you a middle of the pack team or bottom of the NBA, bottom of your conference team, middle to bottom for the Pistons is what the projection is by most people. I believe you play the young guys. Let them get an opportunity. Let them build their confidence up. Why not? You know, why have them sit on the bench and just get the experience of carrying bags or going city to city? Let them get about 20 minutes a game because, you know what? We know Ish Smith. We know what he is in this league. He's a backup point guard. Reggie Bullock, we know what he is in this league. He's a good glue guy. Glenn Robinson III, he is what he is in this league. You know what I'm saying? Jose Calderon, we know what he is. He's a veteran that's supposed to be veteran presence to this team. And Reggie Jackson, you know it's just a matter of time before he goes down, okay? And you know, that's what I believe. But the Pistons play in a loaded East, to be honest, man. On my other channel we did Eastern NBA preview show. We did an NBA preview show yesterday. We do another one today. If you're interested, Goodfella Sports TV, Goodfella GOODFELLA Sports TV, all separate words. And we're going on 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just look for the invite. And I appreciate if you subscribe over there, okay? And the East was thick, man. You got Boston, okay? You got Philly, Chicago is improved, Miami is still deep. Washington with Dwight Howard. You got a lot of different teams, man. Milwaukee, Toronto is expected to be a top 3 team. You know, it's a deep conference, man. A real deep conference. I think I projected the Pistons to make the playoffs at the 7th spot. You know, I think that's what I projected them to make the playoffs as. You know, I think my teams were Boston, Philly, Toronto. I think 4 for me. I think I picked. I can't remember who I picked to be 4th. It might have been like you know, Miami or some shit like that, or the Indiana. Now, I'm just saying it's a tough place. They got a tough division with Indiana, Chicago, Milwaukee. Just right there, that's a tough division the Pistons are in. They got talent. As well, a lot of talent. I project them to make the playoffs. I think I said the 7th seed. But injuries, man, they gotta stay healthy. And they gotta play the right way. You know, they can't have Dre out there shooting threes at all. That ain't his game. He can say whatever you want to say. I'll make him in practice. You did make him in preseason, from what I understand. But the Pistons are going to need to find an identity. They're going to need to play faster. They're going to need to get up some three-pointers. So then again, it takes me back to the beginning. You're going to need to play Langston Galloway. You're going to need to play John Lord. You're going to need to play a lot of Luke Kennard. You're going to need to play guys on the team that can stretch the floor and shoot the rock. You know what I'm saying? The Pistons still need to acquire more shooting, okay? Kyrie Thomas is a guy that can shoot the three at a good rate coming out of Creighton. That shot the three pretty well in Summer League, okay? So they're going to need to get their shooters. They're going to need to play their young players. They're going to need to develop their young players early on. And you got to hope that Stanley Johnson can step up. He worked on his game enough in the Summer League. And he worked on the shooting. He worked on the scoring. So if, you know, for the Pistons actually to make a huge run in the East, which I believe Charlotte, Cleveland, the Magic, the Nets, the Knicks won't make the playoffs, okay? I don't think those teams have any chance at making the playoffs. I believe the playoff teams are, or the Hawks neither. I think the playoff teams are Boston, Philly, Toronto, Miami. Miami, the Wizards, the Bulls, that's 6. The Pacers, that's 7. Milwaukee, 8. 7. Milwaukee, 8. And the Pistons may be a playoff team. They're the French team right now. You know, so it's hard for me to believe that the Pistons are better than a lot of those teams, man. And that's going to happen if Reggie Jackson provides the boost off the bench like we think provides the boost for the team like people projecting him to, which I know he's going to let us down. And that's why I want to really get Bruce Brown in there and Kyrie Thomas in there to really develop and get the ground running and see what they got early on. But we know what he's going to let them down. I'm just being real. With an injury, if he's playing well or whatever, just fall out of favor with Dwayne Casey. I know Dwayne Casey is a man or a coach of many, many chances. It's going to be how Blake and Drummond have developed in the summer, how they built their bodies up, what their mentality's like. Is it really true that Stan Van Gundy handcuffed them in their offense and they really didn't like the offense that Stan Van Gundy was running? Okay, it's going to be predicated on the shooting from, excuse me, from Luke Kennard and Reggie Jackson and John Lure and Henry Allison and Langston Galloway. And how good can Blake shoot it this year? How good will Reggie shoot it this year? Will Kyrie Thomas get some burn, get an opportunity to shoot it this year? It's going to be how good the shooting is. It's going to be how good the offensive system they run is. Will they play fast? But it really hinges on Reggie Jackson, Stanley Johnson, and the way Blake and Drummond lead this team. The how can I say it? The team it's really predicated on those four things, man. It's really predicated on how well Reggie plays, how well Stanley develops them two, and how much leadership Dre and Blake Griffin give to the Pistons, okay? I think that's very, very important. And most people look at it that Cleveland falls off and LeBron James leads the East, that the East is wide open, but it's really not. Boston was dominant last night. Philly is a good team. Chicago is coming up, you know. They coming up. Toronto, you welcome Kawhi Leonard to the East. You know what I'm saying? So, Miami is probably the deepest team in the East other than the Boston Celtics. I mean, the Wizards, you know, you never know with their injury-prone backcourt. Now they bring an injury-prone and immature Dwight Howard. You never know. It might just work. Okay? It might just work. So, the Pistons really got to be on their P's and Q's. They got to figure a rotation out that works for them. They got to figure a lot of things out, you know, for the Detroit Pistons, man. A lot of things out that needs to be figured out for them, man. You know, ultimately, I haven't fully looked at the schedule. I know who they usually play many times. I'm going to go ahead and say the Pistons win about 42 games. I think they go 42-40, slide into about the 8th spot, 7th, 8th, anywhere from the 7th, the 6th to the 8th spot, to be honest. I think they slide into the playoffs. And I think I don't be surprised if you see some moves coming from the Pistons by the trade deadline. And definitely next year, you'll probably see that Reggie Jackson contract move. It'll be on his last year of his contract, I believe. And I believe you'll see that contract move whenever his last year is. So I don't think anybody's going to be trading the Reggie until that's an expiring contract. But also one thing I want to speak on, I thought the Pistons should have considered bringing in Isaiah Thomas. Okay? I think that would have been great insurance for Reggie Jackson. I think you break down the film and see what Isaiah Thomas did well in Boston. You try to emulate some of that into your offense. He's definitely a shooter. He's definitely a defensive liability. I definitely agree with that. But you know, it shows it's Smith when he's playing point guard. So I think Isaiah Thomas probably could have gave his team a good lift if he can get back to form. Understand that he don't always have a mentality. He still think he's the MVP candidate, Isaiah Thomas. But if you can sit down, talk to him, you can you possibly could push Reggie Jackson. He got signed for like 1 year, you know, $5, $6, $7 million. So the Pistons had the money to pay him for 1 year. I thought they should have considered signing him. It just dawned on me today. I said that would have been a great move for the Pistons to kind of push Reggie Jackson. I don't think anybody on this team is going to put pressure on Reggie Jackson, because I don't believe that Dwayne Casey is going to give Bruce Brown an opportunity to play right away. Unless some injuries hit, that can happen. I don't think Kyrie Thomas is going to get an opportunity to play right away. And I think Isaiah Thomas would have been a real threat. He could have been a temporary solution at the point guard position behind Reggie Jackson. But they didn't do it. So, you know, at the end of the day, I think the team MVP to end off will be I think it's gonna be Blake Griffin. I think the surprise player on the team that had a surprise season is gonna be Glenn Robinson III. I say Glenn Robinson III. He's gonna be the surprise player of the team. I think he's gonna be sixth man of the year. Came around on him. You know, the disappointment of the year, I'm gonna still stick with Reggie Jackson. You know, that's my opinion on that. And I think Luke Kennard is going to have a really, really strong and solid year and kind of erase the Donovan Mitchell woes out of people's mind. But I got the Pistons finishing 42-40, making the 7th spot or the 8th spot in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And I think they're going to be trending in the right direction. Let's see if Dwayne Casey can continue to develop the team. Motor City Sports Talk, definitely appreciate it. Don't forget, we just dropped the Lions prediction as well. Check that out.